got your spot?
Literally talks about her tonight.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming and to the gallery. We're celebrating, I think, a year and 2 months now, so it's incredibly exciting. But nothing more exciting than having these two incredible artists here today with us. So introducing Blak and Jarra Karalinar Steel.
Hi.
And I feel that everyone's quite aware of each of these artist practices in the room, but Jarra is the creator and the brains behind these incredible light boxes that you see here. And Adam, painter to maker to bronze. So it's a beautiful exhibition, which I hope you get to navigate after the talk. But sign language, where do you start? And Adam approached me, beginning of this year, and said, "Got an idea. I want to show some work." Okay, let's show some work. And he goes, "I've got the title and everything. Sign language." I went, "Yeah, that fits. Yeah, okay. Talk it through." I went, "Sign language. Hold the phone. I think I know someone else that should be part of this."
Yeah.
And so called up Jarra, and that was that. So in speaking to that, I guess, you had a body of work that you were working towards, Adam, and, which was the first piece, I think, that made you go, okay, this is what this exhibition's about, or how did it kind of concrete into the construct for you?
So thanks all for giving up your time today. Nice to see some familiar faces and some who I've only seen on Instagram before, now met in the flesh. And anyway, this it took me some time to get back on the horse, so to speak, after the Archie, as I moved out to the country and was kind of trying to find my mojo again with painting. Needing a well-needed break after the roller coaster ride of experiencing the Archibald. And so, because of the amount of kilometres that I drive, I'm 250 kilometres west of here, over what I've learned is colloquially said, the sandstone curtains, the Great Dividing Range. So once you get over there and then out the Mudgee, obviously there's a lot of kilometres, so I'm looking at signs all the time. And I needed something that I was familiar with to get my prompting to make some work again in a body. And interestingly, first canvases after the Archibald is a return to my very first major show in Sydney, which was at Morrie Gallery at the time down in Darling Harbour. And that expansive show was all street signs as well. And that was called A Sign of the Crimes, that show. And so it's just a no-brainer for me to not take the opportunity. I always say, as I've said in my statement, that it's rather than, I tell the young black kids in schools, don't become another statistic by getting caught graffitiing what you want to say on walls and signs or whatever, but paint about it, make your own stuff up. And so when I drive, I visually entertain myself by graffitiing in my head the street signage that I see on the way, and also venting frustration by seeing those big billboards in a paddock that says "advertise here," and there's rarely anything on those. And I think I was saying Eloise a little while ago before putting the show together, my dad used to always say that he couldn't possibly spend 30 million after winning it in Powerball or the Lotto. He'd say, what the hell would you do with that kind of money? I only need 1 million, And I said, well, Dad, give me the rest because I'd buy every billboard on this continent. And imagine what we could do in moving towards an advertised sovereignty for blackfellas if we owned all the billboards. That's just a start.
Well, I think that's really touching on an interesting point where, what is the distinction between art being a billboard of construct or idea or feeling or form? In the contemporary and modern age, is art now advertising fodder? Is there heart, is there soul in that? And I think I look at Jarra's work where you very much look at, colonising urban spaces and taking over this kind of advertised self into your identity and reminding people what country we're on.
Yeah, definitely. And that's sort of how, you connected our works, because I have these large-scale language works, permanent public works in Melbourne CBD, and it all sort of started, it was for Flash Forward during lockdowns, and they were trying to keep artists alive. And I was one of those, and they took me around the laneways, and I grew up being run around the streets of Melbourne and the city, and it means so much to me. Because it's my country as well. I was born at Queen Victoria Hospital, which is now a shopping mall, and I'm, they take me around the laneways, and I'm like, I just want to, there's not us in the streets. There's no, our art's not there, and even sometimes when they do a bit of a token gesture of putting Aboriginal art, it's not even our styles. It's not our work, and sometimes it's not even the people that come from the country. So. And I love celebrating us all, but it would be nice to see ourselves in that. And I was like, well, firstly, I've got these, I want to make these creatures that I've got, which are part of my future folklore of Wominjeka, which means possum spirits. And so we did these in the laneway, but then there was this thing of like, I just want to put language all over the walls of the city, and I want them to be like neon lights, like that you see at night, and they're just like, they're kind of like advertising for buildings, like NAB or something like that, but I want it to be like that. And they're like, oh, I was just getting the art show, and I secretly told them, oh, well, do you want to do something smaller then? I was like, no. I'm going big, yeah. I'm going big, and I didn't think they would take it on, and they were like, all right, so we're going to commission you for the possum spirits, but we're also going to commission you for these language works, and they're going to be permanent. And they're going to be in buildings down laneways in the city. So then I had to actually come up with words. And so there's like one sign down a little laneway near a bar that says, "Be here with love and respect," in language. I sadly, because language was taken from us, like it was made illegal to practice our culture and our language, I don't have tongue for it, so I wouldn't be able to repeat it, but my auntie Faye Muir, who is a big part of that language revival, as well as my mum Karalinar Steel, helped me with those words, which I'm very grateful for. And then there's another one that says message stick, and that's on a Telstra building. So and I made it blue because I was like, Bluetooth messaging. And it's really cool because it's not a laneway you want to go down in the city, but it kind of brings you to it because it's like, what's this blue glowing light? And then there's a wurrung, which took a while to get up, and it's this, wurrung means like mouth, tongue, like where words come out. So you'll notice if you're ever down south on Kulin country, a lot of our groups have wurrung, and that's because that's kind of denoting our language, and wurrung is no tongue, no language. I think I'm right, alright?
Don't speak any
other language. Don't speak any other language. There you go. So, and then the last one, I wanted it to be in English, and it kind of came from this moment where I was kind of trapped in lockdown, and people kept kind of calling and saying, oh, don't you just want to be on country? And I'm like, I am on country. This is my country. The city, yes, it is a concrete jungle, but it is sacred land. And so I wrote this one, You're on Country, on Lonsdale Street on a building. And the apartment, people who live there love it. They made a gingerbread, exchange now. Gingerbread house for Christmas once for it. But I really love that work, and it really, I didn't know, because you never know how people are going to interpret the idea of what country is, and obviously people outside of Australia, but a lot of people, I was surprised a lot of people got that and understood it, and really resonated, and got written up as a powerful statement by a top art critic in Melbourne. So yeah, I'm very proud of that, and I think that's kind of where a lot of my art is in that public space, is just taking back space and say, you know, we are here, we've never left, and yeah, just celebrate language and that. And
Well, I still think where words have staying power.
yeah,
And I think there's a lot of power in language and word and form.
yeah,
Gosh, you know, I think even we look at even the visual and actions to that. But Adam said something the other day when we were in conversation. He goes, "People don't get my work. It's interesting, but it's like a cattle stand or cattle prod."
Cattle brand.
Brand,
Yeah.
thank you. That's the word I wanted. And I went, wow, yeah. There's something about even a jingle where it holds and it repeats an earworm that continues through. And yes, there's been disruptions, but it's never not going to usurp, it's never not going to be here because it's from community and conversational language. So, yeah.
Yeah, in re-entering to exhibition phase again, and pretty much having gone full circle in what I see, learning all the political landscape, both black and white, environmental, social, whatever, and art in the art fraternity as well. Realised that whilst it's been such a slow burn, Australia as a federation is a slow burn, and takes a long time for things to change, as we all know. I realised that I'd come out of the young and angry phase that I'd probably been in for about 25 years, making, you know, excuse the French, fuck you, white Australia art, and heard many a time people say, you know, maybe you should ease off a bit, particularly if you want to sell works.
But that's an interesting point because I've had some people say, "Oh, you can't be angry, or you can't have feeling." And I'm going, "No, everyone can be angry, and art can be angry. Art should be angry. When there is art, it can also be joyful." And I think that was an interesting duality between both of your practices as well.
yeah.
Well, so when I was on a good roll, good momentum with building big bodies of work in the early days, and had that ferocity, and then hearing people say, you know, can't you paint trees or something? And then I was encouraged to join Bumali, coming in from the west, as we all were, you know, out in Penrith. We didn't have any bona fide collectives out there. And then, so it was advised as a emerging First Nations artist, you join Bumali to get your foot in the door of a black arts collective, and also to build your network within Aboriginal art. So I came into, they were then on Parramatta Road, Camperdown, in like a terrace building, and so upstairs, downstairs. And I walked in and I literally, you know, it was kind of like the Boulevard of Broken Dreams image, you know, that Michael Riley was still with us then, and he was sitting up the back. Jonathan Jones was the new assistant manager. And anyway, I walked in, and if you're not familiar, Michael Riley's the most famous Aboriginal male photographer that has lived, and male Tracy Moffat, if you will. And then Jonathan Jones went on to quite some acclaim himself in his career. Until politics got the better of him as well, so he made a child and moved out to Bathurst and quietened down a bit out of the art scene. But what I'm alluding to is when you say you can be angry and powerful. When I joined Bumali that day, they said, "Oh, have you been upstairs to see the Gordon Hookey exhibition?" And I hadn't, and I thought, okay, I'll go upstairs. And if you're not familiar with Gordon Hookey, like he pulls no punches in his works, and he's very free with his expletives and telling white Australia to get fucked, you know, in his paintings. And I saw his works and I thought, wow, I've been told to paint trees or something passive, you know. And he gave me that fire in my belly, hope that because the whole show was sold. And then the next time I would see Gordon Hookey, which was unheard of in Bumali, in those days, you know. But the whole room was sold. And then the next time I would see him, he had his own wing at Quagoma up in Queensland. And so he really gave it fire and But fast forward, and I would hear from, hello again, kind of having a chat here.
Yeah, serious business, come on.
Anyway, fast forward, and I would hear the very words from Jonathan Jones when he became on the curatorial team at the Art of New South Wales, that they don't like angry urban Aboriginal art in the institutions. And that's pretty proven, because you won't see the more harsh wood monkey paintings hanging in major institutions, you know, the ones where he's freed up. So I try to remind the kids and the aspiring art students of this when I speak to them in the schools and colleges or whatever, that just beware that we're 1,000 years behind the Western world in art appreciation. It's only 238 years old as a colony, the second youngest colony on the planet. And so we've got a long way to go. You still, you know, I remark that I've not walked in and been confronted by an artwork, apart from Bill and George occasionally, which is probably the, you know, or Wanda Villa, maybe, but you're not going to walk in an institution and see Jeff Koons' suite with Lastisio Lorna, you know, frolicking naked on the rocks, because we're still not even ready for full frontal nudity in our institutions. And so I've had shows where they've had to put little warnings on the windows, on the glass, that, you know, children under 16 should be accompanied by an adult. I've had works forbidden from being exhibited because they had a tasteful portrait of a young black woman posed on the rocks at Cornell, Gamay, and that couldn't be shown in Mudgee Regional Art Precinct because no school children will see this exhibition. Well, I'm sure the your school children you refer to are looking at much worse stuff on their phones, prior to the ban, of course. But we can't have a full frontal, a nude, reclined young Aboriginal woman because, oh my goodness, we're not ready for nudity in Australian society. B, it's a bit sensitive having a Aboriginal nude, a female Aboriginal nude, perhaps. Particularly in Mudgee where it's an LNP demographic and controlled by white men historically, consistently out there. So a bit sensitive to that sort of stuff. So it's interesting. You have to be careful.
I have kind of connections and things like what you were saying. I'll start with the censorship thing, and I want to circle back to the anger. Recently, so last year I created this, was it last year? 2 years ago? I don't know. COVID brain doesn't work anymore with dates. But I created this installation piece at the art house for the Bleed Biennial, which is like a digital art festival, but it's online and in person. And I think they exhibited some stuff here as well at Campbelltown. That's correct, right? Campbelltown, that exists here. So I created this installation around romance and video games, and the art house were amazing. Like I was recording all these scenes and cutting them up from a video game called Baldur's Gate 3, which was quite popular at the time, still is, and it was around the idea of romance and the need for connection and how people are finding it in fictional love and characters and things like that. And there were some sex scenes and kissing, but they were great with it. And we had like love letters that people wrote to their favourite fictional characters, so people connected. And then ACME decided that they were going to loan it, as well as the Science Gallery. The Science Gallery was amazing, but they also were like, we do have students in, so we had to, every time the students would come in, we covered the, and I mean, look, and they were very tasteful, and it's also, it's animation, it's not even real people, it's simulated, romance and love. And then I was in Paris, and 2 weeks before, while they were installing the ACME one, they were like, we have to remove the sex scenes. We can keep the kissing, but we have to remove the sex scenes. And, you know, it really, like this was behind a curtain anyway. And because, we're going to make it family friendly. And I don't know, it was really disheartening because this is where art is about human expression and sex and love and romance and all the things in between, and anger is a part of our human expression. So after having a little tantrum and being like, oh, but I still want to be a part of this, I'm like, okay, but also like kissing's sex, you know, like, so we just had bigger screens for that, and the nerds loved it because it was for Games World at Acme. And then, yeah, so I kind of have experienced that element of censorship, which kind of sucks because I was like, I really want to explore this idea of intimacy, especially when it comes to our community, because we get black love and, you know, that kind of familiar love shown of us, but also where's our sexuality? And yes, there is a fine line because you don't want that kind of exoticism, you know, sexualness put on us, but what if we claim it for ourselves and express it in that way? But I'm struggling with that shame around doing it, and who's going to let me? You know, I'll still do it without. I'll still get away with it, but it's hard, and people, yeah, they're a bit distant from it. But the reactions, we had thousands of love letters at the Science Gallery. People really connected to it and really were moved by the idea of it, so I'm grateful for that. And then when it comes to anger, so work that I actually exhibited here, which was a projection of the work that I had, which was massive, and it was on the roof of an awning at Library in the Dock in Docklands, Melbourne. And it was a projection that said, it was sort of a poem almost. It was like, I am my ancestors, I am revenge, I am my ancestors' revenge. It was all made out of 3D objects that I had sculpted, and I worked with an incredible animator to put it together. But that actually came from anger, you know, but also the way that kind of anger also, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't see it as like this dark thing. It's not like I'm going out, you know, taking my revenge on people, because the work was actually titled Living Well, because the idea is like, you know, despite you wiping us off, erasing, and, you know, our family at the moment, we're currently dealing with a huge amount of erasure on our country, and you know, where it was, Docklands is Wollongong country, and I wanted to have that conversation, and it's bright and colourful, and it has this thing, and, you know, I think for the most part my art sometimes is driven by pettiness and anger. It's a good motivator. You don't want to use it all the time, but I always kind of like colouring it a bit, you know, like.
Well, I think it's interesting because I think both of you are like hidden in the guise of bright, luring colours. Jarra, whatever, I reckon, or instantly there's hot pinks and blues, and Adam's just this like vibrant oranges. And there's something to be said that it's almost this fake lure in, which is exciting.
Put you at ease.
Yeah.
What I meant to cap off from my previous spiel was that I realised, having gone that full circle, that you can have more fun. The challenge for me is now to make it as cryptic as possible for the viewer. And like you just said, for a long time I've said that my style has been like, with the colours particularly, and I'll give you a little example of this one, when I was first selected in the Win Prize 2005, and the painting was titled Six Finger Salary, and it had stylised termite mounds that were index fingers coming out of the middle fingers coming out of the landscape alongside dry creek bed, so pretty evidently a finger back to the mining companies and whatever. It was selected as a finalist, and the sweet Art Gallery Society ladies phoned me up and said, your painting Six Finger Salary has been selected as a finalist. And I literally said, fuck me. And she said, oh, you sound so so alarmed. It's a beautiful. The colours are beautiful, and that's what I wanted. I realised that it's about. It's like Ali versus Foreman and Rumble of the Jungle. You know, he just let Foreman pummel him, get him against coming closer against the ropes, and then whack with an uppercut. And that's what my paintings are meant to be. And so I realised it's more fun doing that way, like just adding those two little dots on that star, and just enjoying watching people walk closer into it, and then discover, fucking planned, you know, and that's where the fun is. So it's not the old days were really in your face stuff, and it's more fun making it a bit cryptic and more comical, I think, because at the end of the day, you know, we laugh a lot in community because you just can't get crying. You gotta laugh.
And I think that's where, like, when we spoke about the exhibition, yes is anger, but yes is joy. And I think there's a lot of joy in these works as well, because it is a celebration of community as well, and regathering, and not in a stereotypical lens of what that expression should be either. It's, I think, what I can clearly say about each of your practices is that you're distinctly unique individuals within that, and I think that should be celebrated more than anything, you know.
Would it be okay for me to call that black humour?
Yeah, black comedy. Yeah, most likely, yeah.
So I guess it'd be really lovely to maybe point out some of the works, and this one here was probably the last to come to the exhibition.
That was your last one completed.
Yeah, and
I wanted to make something really timely, couldn't help but not say, well, actually, Eloise encouraged me. I hope we'll see something about Pauline. And so it's titled A Pauline Behaviour. And it just had to be done. And as she began to gain that momentum, and what I read this morning is that she's very, in a very wily fashion, she's targeting the Christians. And so that's what we're talking about, the sensitivity of nudity, and something my mate Steve over there pointed out in our chat earlier, is that the abhorrence of this institution that became the dominant religion very quickly on this continent, run by a patriarchy, build your cathedrals on burial grounds as a salt in the wound or final nail in the coffin to blackfellas ceremonial practice, and then for centuries deny your practices of sodomy, which is just abhorrent. And now we're expected. The sad thing is that with Pauline targeting predominantly the Christians, then it's just potentially opening an old wound for us mob. So I do understand why it's so hard to show, and you know, you can count on one hand the number of images that we have seen. Fiona Foley did a portrait series with herself included, bare-breasted in a tribal fashion. Brooke Andrews made those images of young tribal people. Carla Dickens did it at Carrie Works and got told to take them down. They're too sensitive, they're disrespectful to the young people that were already had been featured on postcards and whatever. The sensitivity is there because the church still hasn't wholly admitted and compensated for what they've done to young black people. And effectively, nor have consistent governments, which is a really sad trait, which I keep reminding the kids in schools, you know, don't dare be caught singing that abhorrent anthem, I am, you are, we are Australians. Believe we're a multicultural society when every Prime Minister has been white, of the successive Prime Ministers. You know, if you want to celebrate a multicultural society, where's the first Vietnamese Australian Prime Minister or black fellow, for example? And so it's just a hideous thing where that's failure of admission is preventing the advancement of young, progressive, modern Aboriginal artists for displaying the beauty of what we should be seeing already by now, but obviously we're still way behind the rest of the world in being mature enough to see such imagery on our walls in our institutions.
Yeah, that just reminded me too, like, you know, when I was overseas, I ran an artist workshop at Tate Modern, and I was explaining my work to this person who was from Portugal. And I felt really awkward being there because I had to, like, the whole idea of the workshop was to kind of express your feelings of being on country in London. And I'm like, they're going to get it. Like, really, people just wanted to make art, which was great for me. But I'm having this conversation, and she was really interested, and she was asking what this is about, and it was the living well, and I talked about that, and she just burst into tears, and she's like, I'm so sorry, it's so meaningful, and I fully get it, and I moved, and I've never really experienced that as much in Australia.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, we've got such a cultural cringe for ourselves, and even and I think I experience it a lot more, being an Aboriginal artist as well in a contemporary sense. Of like, we're just going to look at everyone else but what's here. The art trams that I did, especially the last one where I had Destiny Deep and Arnie, Helen Jose, the whole idea of that was to kind of remind people that these two incredible icons who are now past were part of this amazing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander art movement, urban art movement in the 80s and 90s. That came from a bit of the 70s as well, but really solid. I was kind of thinking about my life being around them, being a gallery kid running around, but that's our own homegrown art movement, and why aren't we celebrating that, And there is that kind of puritanism that's really, like, to go back to the whole, Christianity and things like that, and people kind of aiming that, and the censorship. There is an increase of puritanism in the arts now, and I think it hurts all of us. I can speak on our own community and seeing the shame in our young mob around even just expressing themselves or even making art, and working with young kids and be like, just make art, it's okay, and express yourself in any way you want. Please just do it however you want. And then because they're going to get that money for that wrap, so I'm going to do a design that isn't even their culture, community, so they'll do dots or something like that, which doesn't belong to the majority of the East Coast. Because it's like so many of them have to play it safe to survive. It's a paycheck, that money as well. I think people forget when it comes to mob, our money goes back into community. I personally bring on paid mentees, and assistants. Like, I don't ever, go, oh, come work with me and you get to put on your resume. Everyone should be paying the people that work with them, and that teaches them that they're worth something. But it's hard, and I think that I think it's all connected. It's connected to white supremacy. It's connected to all of it, and like I said, it harms everybody. And we're the kind of canaries in the coal mine, I think, when it comes to the world. I think all Indigenous peoples around the world are, because we're so interconnected with the land, and where people will just out of nowhere just be prejudiced. Even when I'm traveling overseas, I hear Aussies just out of nowhere just suddenly bragging on Aboriginal. I'm like, why are you so obsessed with us? I'm just living, what the hell? And then I get to have fun with them because they don't recognise me as Aboriginal. And I, get to make them embarrassed in front of all these other people from around the world. So I really think when it comes down to it, and I think we do this, and it comes, artists are like on the front lines of demolishing that stuff, and activists. So,
well, I think you really touched on a really interesting point there, where prior to social media, prior to the internet, the audience were participatory, they were viewers, but they weren't necessarily participatory. And I think with social media, and it's wonderful to have an audience engage and be part of, art dialogue and gesture, but have we now got to a point where the audience plays too large a role in the career or the engagement with an artist? I think that's an interesting, thing to consider.
Oh, definitely. I see it's all about that Instagram follow count or something like that, and I have experienced those moments of being, I know so many people who are doing really well, and I love them, and they deserve to be in those spaces, but there'll be a gallery person who will fawn over me just to show that they're fawning over me in front of the person they really want, who's got, all the media and all that, and then next minute, later I approach them and I am completely invisible to them. And I found out and they was like, I was this person, I was with this person, who were gushing up at work or whatever, and they're like, are they there? Are they here with me? And I'm like, no, and it is that thing, and it's only 0.1% of the artist population that they and I feel it strongly here. I think that's why I'm kind of in that feelings about it at first. I'm like,
but I think it's a really valid point where I think curators are now, and it's easy to be done, I guess, if we look at art as a metric. Oh, they've got X followers, or they've got this amount of people. Oh, I should work with them, as opposed to, I enjoy connecting with this person, or I enjoy their work and I believe in their messaging. And I think it's an interesting construct where we've kind of lost our heart back with how we engage with art sometimes. And
it's exhausting. It's making artists having to be their own PR person to build up an Instagram following or something.
Well, I think it's also getting a lot of art that isn't necessarily comes with good intention and that has authenticity into it. And I think authenticity as a word is thrown around quite a lot. And how do we judge what is authentic and what is not? But I think the number one thing is if you know who you are, your values, and you practice what you preach, that is authentic. And I couldn't think any two greater examples of this sitting on the couch here. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's a long road ahead, obviously. And I'm not even going to begin to go down the rabbit hole of the political variables that lay before us, because it's just such a mountain that needs to be knocked down. And but I guess all we can do is just pave the way and just keep being as provocative and proactive and contemporary as possible. But the sad thing is that, in 26 years that I've been making work, and I've known several black artists who've been pushing for it, and we're still not near to having an Aboriginal-run institution completely. Gordon Siren and Elaine Siren were pushing for it for many years. It nearly drove them nuts as they resided in Redfern and lived out of a cold train shed, and tried to campaign for their collection to be the beginnings of the bigger collection. And it was a simple dream to have young Aboriginal people sitting on that front desk and welcoming international visitors in there. When I began, when I was working at the art gallery doing a lunchtime performance in the Urbana gallery, when it used to be down in the basement, that was the colloquial term for it, in the old gallery, if any of you remember that. But it was the most hidden space in the art gallery of New South Wales. And so I had the luxury of doing this lunchtime performance, and at any given day, the diversity of people sitting before me was just, it was gobsmacking. But often I got from the Canadians and the Americans, why is your collection all the way down here? In our institutions, our First Nations art is as soon as you walk into the space. And look how long it took for that to occur at the Urbana Gallery in the new gallery in Sydney now. But it's still, the sad thing fundamentally is that we are still an ethnographic category. So we are considered in the oceanic art sphere. And so it's still hard to pinpoint the fact that we need our own institution.
At NGV, like I had who at the time was one of the top curators there. They were like, there are no suitable, good Victorian Aboriginal artists in Victoria, despite the fact that they also had my cousin Mary Clark everywhere. They pull her out as soon as they can. And they used to collect a lot more of us, and I'm hoping that will change one day, but really the collection is extremely sparse when it comes to the Victorian mob, and this is our state gallery. If there is a big show around Aboriginal art, it's put in the Ian Potter Gallery and not the main gallery that's reserved for Cartier apparently, and the pharaohs of Egypt that are stolen works of art. And I just found that really disappointing, and they constantly are going, where is everyone? Or they're coming to me because I'm tracking it. The minute I see a young one who's doing something that's interesting, and that it has to, because I've seen a lot of art, I need a little bit of joy, and they're always coming to me, but it's like, you guys are not fostering it, you are not investing in our artists. There is like KR Arts in Shep, that's all we have for art centres. And even then, they get, at the art fair, they get put right at the back. And they're the only Victorian mob there doing what they're doing. And they're actually pushing the boundaries and going, this is us, And have elders like Glenys Briggs and Arnie Lynn Thorpe and like people who have been doing it for a long time. But it's just disappointing because even with they want to create this Victorian First Peoples art fair in Melbourne, and it's a great thing, and I said, where is the investment in the artists so you get the right people in who aren't appropriating Central Australian art, or where are we training, where are we teaching our young ones to be solid and actually be able to do whatever they want in their art expression. And they're like, oh, that's just no money. or they don't think of it. They just think, oh, we can just ask a number of artists, but they're also asking the same artists over and over again, and it's maybe 5, And then they sometimes will sneak in someone who's in Melbourne, who's doing great, but it's just to boost it up, but they're not connected to country. So it is disappointing, and I want us all to be celebrated, but I think institutions, shouldn't we be also celebrating the people in that land, in the land, and the amazing artists that are really doing some incredible work as well, like yourself, and I just, so I can relate to that so strongly, because that's the thing, I speak out about it, and I go, no, this is wrong. And you can do your acknowledgement to country, and I'll be the only one in the room that is a traditional owner, and I'll go, oh, thank you. Sometimes I want to get up and go, thank you for the acknowledgement. I really appreciate it. But I've got to also play that kind of game of am I going to be the difficult black woman who says stuff, and but I do also find it hard to hold my tongue, so it comes out now. It's a big problem, and also just why are we looking outwards when we should be looking inwards? Yeah, definitely. And I think it comes down to erasure, because they made a lot of money and took over a lot of land on the east coast of Australia, and they destroyed our culture, and we kept it just holding on to what we can. So they can go there and go, no, these guys, they're connected more than us. So it is a part of that erasure of our communities on the East Coast, and I think that they're continuing it, because if they actually said, they do have culture and art and language, and look what they're doing, and they're still evolving it and doing some really exciting things, then they've got to really admit what they did to us. Sorry,
No,
rant
no,
over.
no, no. I think you touched on a point where, and it does come back to really this exhibition in terms of advertising. Now that the artist is now the advertisement, and who are the 5 or the 6 or the 10 that will be the advertisements for this, and maybe that's where that breakdown needs to start happening. And I think it's a really interesting thing in that context, back to this exhibition as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where those shop signs shopped, which is what the series is called, because I had a little moment of like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do, and being a bit intimidated having a show with you, and I was going kind of lamenting about that, like that it's all about marketing and advertising, and Wominjeka, which was a phrase that was coined by my mother and my older brother Jason through their research into revitalising language back in the 90s. Now it's like, it's not as familiar here obviously, but if you're in Melbourne, it's on signage and it's used by everybody, and it's been bastardised to just mean welcome, when it's not. It's an invitation, it's a contract almost, actually. I see it as a contract. And it's like, ask to come, what is your purpose, what is your intention of coming? And it's a reminder to remind you, what is our purpose to be here? What are we doing here? And really being respectful of land and country and the people. So that's why, I wanted to sort of do that. And I guess it comes from my little petty angriness, but also sugar-coated in bright colours.
Yeah, and it's a great way to have it the first thing that you see when you come down the steps of the gallery. So, yeah, and then tucked around the corner is these incredible suite of boomerangs by Adam.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak for you on your behalf, but
Yeah, it's just what I call the flagship of the series. The artist proofs of which are hanging in Parliament House on Corey Street at the moment. And so they were the hardwood boomerangs that I'd sourced, and then came up with all the language pertaining in the financial year, taxation, the reason being, and the subtle pun is the returning boomerangs, the tax returns, and what we hope for as artists, and just the comment that keeps falling on my sentiment keeps falling on deaf ears by and large, of many of my brethren in the western suburbs, and saying that, my grandmother was stolen only 93 years ago and made a slave to the state as a ward of the state, and
criminalised.
yeah, criminalised. And now our homeland, which is Jerseyville, mid-north coast New South Wales, is prime, expensive grazing country. So our people were moved on a couple of times up and down the river, and then if you couldn't have a worse salt and wound, slap in the face gesture, Kinchela Boys Home was built right on our tribal homeland. So many of the young boys that were moved several times ended up back in that home as a place to be held. So what I bang on about is that through the federal legislation of native title, which by and large says that native title can only be claimed by those who can prove continued connectedness to your land. And so obviously when you've been moved off your land several generations, you can't return to that. So my beef ever since I began making art with the Commonwealth is that, why am I being taxed? You haven't repatriated, you haven't, and I can't claim for the stolen generations purse, because you have to be the next of kin or maybe one removed. So here we are expected to survive in a one of the most expensive Commonwealth countries on the planet, and you win the most famous art prize on this continent and one of the most famous art prizes in the world, and you'll slog 30 grand in tax from that prize straight away. So I walked away from that thinking, maybe imagine if I could make, inspired by the little feral fella in Mad Max with the metal boomerang that took the fingers off that one that tried to catch it. I thought, imagine I could make a fucking heavy killer boomerang and I could throw it at the ATO as a reminder that, you know, hey, this is not fair. We should not be taxed. And you choose who you want to listen to on that one. Gary Foley, Uncle Gillard, Michael Anderson, Mark McMurtry, Michael Mansell, Kevin Gilbert back in the day. Right. You can listen to all of these famous speakers who might remind us that sovereignty is a long road for us to have that return as the rightful original people to this continent. So, I'm not going to cry about it, I'm going to make artworks.
Yes.
I'll put them on those really fancy bronze sweet boomerangs, and hopefully Eloise will sell them to the ATO.
Mission accepted. Well, on that note, I think I'll just say thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much to Adam and to Jarra there's not much more else I can really say, but enjoy the rest of the time, please have a look around, and go from there.
I'll give a little plug on behalf of my direct sister from the Blue Mountains, Leanne Tobin, who opens her epic survey exhibition this afternoon at Penrith Regional Gallery. Obviously we'll be there for a month or so, but it's an enormous expanse of work. She's a very dear friend of Auntie Ellie's and mine, very close comrade. And also Auntie Ellie just opened a big show at the Blue Mountains Cultural Centre last night, which is worthwhile on your western trip to see both of those. And our lovely sister girl who's joined us from Noongar country over here has a beautiful ceramic piece in the Win Prize at the moment, which is very worthwhile checking out if you haven't seen the Win Prize. Any other artists want to give it a pitch? Thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.